It's been a little bit since I've seen a Zach Rushing video. Looks like he's got a new little intro going on here. I believe this picks up where I left off the last time because I've been going from his earlier videos and working my way up to his newer stuff. So this one is titled The New Age of Relationships. Haven't seen it before, but knowing Zach's stuff by now, I think maybe I know where this is headed, but let's see.
Okay, y'all got questions, I got answers.
All right.
Here we go. This is a frequently asked question on my page about the new age of relationships. Now, I understand times are changing, but that don't mean they have to. Somebody asked me, I believe yesterday or the day before, they said, Zach, I said, yes.
Okay.
They said, how come relationships these days don't last the way that our grandparents' relationships did? I said, well, that's a real easy question to answer, and I just so happen to have that answer right here.
Okay.
It's a new day and time, and people in today's society believe that they are entitled to something.
Yes.
Let me paint you a picture.
Oh, he's so right about that. That's true. I mean, and also I like the point that he made about how something like, you know, some things change, but that doesn't mean that they have to. It really doesn't, because sometimes change doesn't bring with it things that are positive. It brings with it things that are regressive in nature. And a lot of that's happening today. And a lot of different, it's not just about relationships. It's happening in so many different areas, but right now he's focusing on relationships.
And people in today's society believe that they are entitled to something. Let me paint you a picture real quick, okay?
Okay.
Back in the day, man and woman got together, knew each other for a little while, got married, had a baby. That's what you did. Now, in that agreement, the woman is agreeing to be that man's woman, and the man's agreeing to be that woman's man. That used to hold a lot of credit. It don't hold shit no more.
No.
Back in them days, your man was the head of the household. What he said went. I'm not saying women can't have an opinion. That is the opposite of what I'm saying. I believe a woman is entitled to the same amount of opinions as a man does. But the woman also knew her place. While the man,
Oh boy, I can hear the feminists screaming now. Oh my gosh, he said a woman knew her place. Oh. My brain's exploding all over. Okay.
as a man does. But the woman also knew her place. While the man was the iron fist, made sure it had a roof over everybody's head and food on the table, the woman was a caregiver. She made sure everybody was taken care of, made sure everybody felt loved, made sure it was a home, and made sure that the family was close-knit. I give you a perfect example of, as I'm getting older, how I'm starting to realize that all the things that I thought was right ain't right. We were sitting at Thanksgiving dinner one year. We were sitting down there at the table. Nanny, which is my grandma, she always fixes everybody's plates. It's just how she is. That's what she likes to do, and what Nanny wants, Nanny gets, because I ain't getting on her bad side. Well, Papa's sitting down there at the end of the table. Nanny sits on the other end of the table. Why? Because they put in their time, and they got the most respect out of the family, so they can sit where the hell they want to.
Right.
On two separate ends of the table. Now,
Okay.
sweet tea is in the pitcher and about 3/4 of the table toward my papa. Well, my papa got done eating with one plate. He reached up there, gave some more tater salad and a little bit more dressing. Looked across the table, picked up his glass, shook his glass, said, "Need a little bit more tea here, Nita." My grandma got up from her plate where she was eating Thanksgiving dinner, walked down there, grabbed that pitcher, which he could have reached, and poured my papa a glass of tea. Now, in my mind, I'm sitting there, and I'm 13, 14 years old at this time, and I'm looking at her like, you lazy son of a bitch. You could have got your own damn tea. You don't need to make her get up and come do that. But I happened to notice on the way back to her end of the table that she was smiling. I asked myself, I said, now why would she be smiling over something that small? I can tell you why. Because in her mind, she just took care of her man.
Yeah.
She wanted to go pour that man's tea because that man worked his ass off day in and day out for her to provide for her and give her things that she never would have thought had been possible. And she was so grateful for that just the smallest little action of getting up and go pouring him a glass of tea made her feel good. And my grandpa knew that. He knew that made her feel good. That's why he asked her to do that, because I asked him years later.
Aww.
The difference between their time that they grew up and the time that we grew up is all this equality bullshit. And I'm not saying that women can't be equal to men. I'm 100% for that. There's stronger women out there than I know men. You should.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's what a lot of people don't seem to be able to wrap their brains around, is that when you have opinions like this and you're speaking the things like what he's trying to explain, they automatically jump to, they automatically do a Kathy Newman, and they jump to this assumption that that means that you don't think women should be treated equally, whatever, in the eyes of the law or just in society or whatever. But that's not the point he's trying to make at all. And if people would just kind of stop a second and listen to what he's actually trying to explain, maybe they would understand it. But I don't think a lot of people that they just don't want to. They don't want to hear that. You know the type.
Women can't be equal to men. I'm 100% for that. There's stronger women out there than I know men. You show me a damn woman who's raising kids by herself, ain't got a man in their life. That is the definition of strong. The definition. A woman who's raising kids with no outside help, who gets up in the morning and grinds her ass off and takes care of her youngins and still gets them to damn cheerleading and baseball practice on time. That is the absolute definition of strong. You open up a dictionary, boom, strong. Picture of a woman right there. But the damn difference of the time is that back in them days, if they had problems with something, they didn't throw it away and go get them another one. They fixed it. Now, I hope that answers y'all's question about what the difference of today's relationships and the old ones are.
Well, a lot of times they did fix it, and sometimes they didn't fix it. They just kind of put up with it. That's just the way it was back then. Especially, it was harder for women to pick up and leave bad marriages, bad situations. It just was. It's easier now. Consequently, they leave even when it's not necessarily, something that's abusive, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. They leave because they've gotten interested in somebody else, or they just have gotten tired of the person. So that freedom or that independence that women have established has also led to, as far as I'm concerned, a bigger breakdown of the family unit, which ties into many, if not most, of the problems in this country, is the fact that the family unit has gotten so weak and it's just broken down, and kids are just, they're not raised in a stable manner like they deserve to be.
And that's the reason the old ones last and today's kind of feather out. There's no pride in taking care of each other anymore. And I get faulted for it all the time, that I'm not in this new age shit. I believe in doing shit the old way. I believe the man needs to get up in the morning, put his work boots on, grind all day, come home to a hot cooked meal, and tell his woman how much he loves her. That's the way it's supposed to be. Who's, in my opinion, don't mean nothing to nobody but me. But that's enough for me.
No, it means something to other people too. He always ends it like that. That's so funny. That's like his trademark. But what he was talking about actually reminded me of a message that I got. It was a pretty snarky message from a feminist. And she was, what was it she said? It's been a while back. I don't even remember exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. But she accused me of being old-fashioned, like what he's accused of. And because I had made a comment somewhere, I don't even remember what video it was, about a lot of women, I'm paraphrasing what I apparently said because I'd need to go back and look at it, but I think what I probably said, well, this is the downside of having so many videos on my channel. I don't always remember everything I've mentioned in them, but going off of what I know about what she mentioned, I think this is probably what I said. Something about how women thought in general, this is in general, obviously, thought that, being able to work outside the home and be independent, and that this was going to give them some sort of level of satisfaction and everything, but that in the long run, it has not made them happier. That a lot of women, and this has been reported in different types of studies or surveys or something, I've seen in passing throughout the years, that a lot of women have expressed more contentment to be able to be at home and to raise their kids. Because it's kind of like in our biology. That's what we do. It doesn't mean men can't do it, obviously, but it's ingrained in us, just like it's ingrained in men to have this protective sort of feeling about his household, his family, and the men go out and fight and stuff. I mean, that's why it's happened generally. Nowadays, the problem with a lot of the stuff about equality is that in a lot of ways, many women today, and this started back with the first wave feminists that everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people hold them up as like they're just the prime example of what a feminist is supposed to be like. But the problem is, even they had their issues, even they were a little sketchy, because basically what they were wanting was all of the benefits that property owners, which happened to mostly be men at the time, they wanted all the benefits that that segment of the population received because they were tax-paying citizens. They were paying into things. They had an actual, investment, physical type of investment, monetary investment in society. And so they got things like the right to vote because they were the ones that were contributing. They were the ones that were putting into what was going on in the country. And women, for the most part, were not. But the first wave and this is kind of an oversimplification of it, but I'm just kind of getting down to sort of the gist of the point I was trying to make about feminism in general. Those first wave feminists, they wanted the benefits and privileges that this other segment of the population got, but they wanted that without all of the responsibilities that other segment of the population had. And you notice that you generally don't see or hear anything from feminists in general demanding that women be forced to be put on the draft, right? Or selective service, let's say, which is ultimately, no, we don't technically have a draft anymore, but we can anytime. And that's the whole thing of selective service. You don't see women fighting to be forced to sign up with selective service. You don't see that at all. You don't see women fighting to do away with the protection that they are specifically granted from forced genital cutting in this country. You don't see them fighting to get rid of that to make things equal because, boys aren't protected from it, which is a violation of, I believe it's the 14th Amendment, something. That's unconstitutional protection that's granted to women for that. So they say they want equality, but they really don't. They want to reap all the benefits and rewards without really true equality, truly paying the price for what's involved in that. And because of that progression that has happened, well, I wouldn't even call it a progression. I mean, in some ways you could see it that way because, yes, women have more protections now than they did in a lot of ways from things like, let's say, abusive partners or whatever. But the problem is, along with that has come all these other negative ramifications of what feminism has brought. I've touched on that so many times in all my other videos. I don't want to sort of rehash it all here, but it has led to, in a lot of ways, the problems that we're having in society, kids in broken homes, kids without two parents. You've got the fact that a woman can opt out of having a baby if she wants, just like that. A man cannot. He never can, or he can face legal problems for that. So, I mean, what's the equality in that? Now, you could make the argument, well, it's the woman that carries the baby and all this. You could make that argument if you want, but we're talking about equality, right? If you really want equality, then you need to make it as easy for a man to opt out of being a father as it is for a woman. So but this equality that we have in a lot of ways has brought a lot of terrible things along with it. And in some ways, we're better off because of it. In many ways, we're not. And it really feels like a lot of people aren't kind of stepping back and sort of recognizing what these advancements, the negative consequences they have brought, or what the negative consequences these advancements have brought. I'm kind of talking in fragmented thoughts, but that's kind of the way my brain works. So he's making a good point. You can always have, but what about the women who are in this terrible abuse? He's just talking in general with normal, healthy minded people. Okay, there's always going to be these outliers that happen in any sort of situation. I mean, you would think people would know that's what you're talking about, that when you're speaking in general terms, you're not talking about these crazy people on the fringes. You're talking about just generally normal people. But no, I think a lot of times I think they intentionally don't get the point you're trying to make because they just want to argue for the sake of it. But he's just talking about in general, people did put more work into trying to maintain their relationship and, kind of just suffered through the bad times because everybody has them. And the problem is a lot of times people, they don't want to work their way through that because it's so much easier to just walk away. Especially when a lot of times you're not even married to your partner, because it's easier to leave when you're not married. But it's still pretty easy to leave nowadays, even when you are married, but it's a little bit harder. But anyway, yeah, I think it's kind of a shame what has happened over the many, many decades since the whole feminism thing got started. And I just think it's worth stepping back and seeing that and understanding the consequences of certain things, because you never really, I can't say never, but a lot of times you don't look or try to look beyond what you're trying to advocate for and see the potential negative problems that could come down the road. It may not happen overnight, but a lot of times it happens. And this is why I'm often very cynical about a lot of things the government wants to do to come in and protect us from and save us from and help us and help and this, because I see down the road the problems that can come from that. And unfortunately, a lot of people, especially here in this country, I know it's kind of a human nature thing, but here in the US, it really does feel like a lot of us are more focused on the quick fix solution. You have an ache, take a pill, instead of maybe go do yoga for about 30 minutes and stretch it out and maybe you'll feel better, that sort of thing. We're very much about the instant gratification. That's, I believe, very deeply ingrained into our culture. I don't know that it's necessarily specific to the US, or if not just maybe first world Western countries in general. I'm speaking mostly from my experience here and some things I've read from other countries, from perspectives I've seen and read from people in other countries, even for first world countries, Western countries. It feels like it's more so here. But also a lot of times what happens here in a lot of ways kind of creeps out and infects other places. The bad things I refer to as infecting. But maybe it's vice versa. Maybe it's starting somewhere else and infecting its way over here. We're not the only, first world type country to have these sorts of situations happening. But anyway, well, that was long and rambly, but I agree with Zach. I wouldn't even really, I don't think I'm going to classify this as a comedy reaction, even though a lot of his stuff is pretty comedic. This kind of just feels more like a regular type of reaction video. And I appreciate hearing what he has to say. I always appreciate his outlook because I agree with so much of it. I haven't yet come across anything major that he said that I am in complete disagreement with. I think there was only one thing, and that had something to do with the way you load a dishwasher. That was nothing, you know, come on. But anyway, well, this was nice to return to his channel, and I look forward to checking out more of his videos at some point. But for now, I think I'm going to move on to maybe a trailer, or maybe I'm going to watch a movie. I've thought about rewatching Big Trouble in Little China, because I got inspired to do that when I saw a discussion the Critical Drinker had with Nerderotic this past, I think it was yesterday, maybe Thursday or Friday. And I had seen that movie years and years ago, and I remember liking it. And then I tried to rewatch it maybe about a decade or more ago, and I was like, "Oh, this is terrible! It's so cheesy! It's awful." But now, maybe, you know, I'm older now. Maybe my mind frame has shifted. So I've been thinking about doing a reaction to that movie. I was trying to find some of the other movies that had been on the other polls, and I don't have easy access to them, but I do have access to this one. So we'll see. I don't know if I want to start that now or just do the trailer. It's about right time for my evening coffee, so maybe just a trailer before I decide what I want to do. Okay, that's enough. See you guys later.